time-bombed Skyscraper is the first movie adapted from the famous manga Detective Conan. Shinichi Kudo's birthday is on May 4th. Right before his birthday, he received a mysterious phone call from a stranger. This person challenged the young genius detective to find the bombs hidden all over Tokyo. A series of serious cases is about to occur, putting Ran in a perilous situation. Will Shinichi be able to appear again this time to rescue his friend? This is also an important milestone marking the author Gosho Aoyama's outstanding success with the Conan series worldwide. The film also brings meaningful and profound messages. So what are you waiting for? Let's follow Ackerman Recap to keep up with the summary of this fascinating anime. At this moment, a horrific murder occurs at the Kurokawa mansion, with the homeowner as the victim. Conan and Uncle Mori immediately arrive on the scene. Before his death, Mr. Kurokawa left the only clue, bloody characters on the computer keyboard. The screen displayed the three characters JUN, seemingly referring to the culprit's name. Uncle Mori, with his instincts as a super detective, quickly made a guess, but Conan disagreed. With no other options, he inserted a needle into the old man's body to solve this case. According to Conan's reasoning, the case was explained as follows. When Mr. Kurokawa was attacked from behind by the culprit, he reflexively raised his hands to cover his head. On the second strike, he collapsed onto the keyboard, which got stained with his blood from the English upper key. After the culprit left, he used his last strength to type the culprit's name. However, since the English upper key was activated, the keys he actually pressed meant Manami. No one other than Manami Nakazawa, Mr. Kurokawa's secretary, was being implicated. Although she initially denied it repeatedly, after Uncle Mori presented evidence of the victim's blood-stained sock, Manami eventually confessed her crime. But that was not the end of this movie. Everything was just the beginning of a dark plot being revealed. The next day, Conan received an invitation letter from a man named Teiji Moriya. After consulting with Dr. Agasa, he learned that Moriya was a famous architect who would soon invite Shinichi to an outdoor party. However, currently, apart from Uncle Mori and Ran, Conan could not take advantage of anyone else to attend the party. When he called Ran, the first thing he got was a scolding from her and then a condition about a date on Saturday night the following week. Although he contemplated all night, Conan still didn't understand why Ran set a date to go to the movies on May 3rd. After returning home, the kid realized that Ran scheduled it to throw a surprise birthday party for him. Although Uncle initially seemed angry when Ran decided to stay with Shinichi all day, after being distracted by the invitation letter from architect Moriya, Uncle Mori also forgot what had happened. When they arrived at Moriya's mansion, all three were surprised by the magnificent surroundings. Even more surprisingly, when Uncle Mori showed off his vast knowledge by introducing all the structures and their history, Conan was astonished by his uncle's intellect. However, his true nature was revealed when Uncle Mori accidentally showed the notebook he had prepared in advance while boasting his knowledge. From there, we learned that Moriya was an architect who extremely valued perfection and symmetry. All of his recent works were structures with aesthetic symmetrical value, even his own name. He had changed it to special symmetrical characters. After a while, Mr. Moriya appeared to greet everyone. They were then invited to an outdoor tea party. There, Moriya talked about the food he had personally made and criticized the inexperience of young architects. He also gave everyone some riddles, and the winner would get to tour the exhibition room in the mansion. While Mr. Mori was rambling, Conan had already solved the difficult riddle. After inviting Ran and Conan into the exhibition room, Moriya enthusiastically talked about his works, but expressed dissatisfaction with his early architectural projects when he had just started his career. "Those works had many flaws back then due to my youth and inexperience," said Moriya before asking Ran about the two kids' relationship. After learning that Ran would have a date with Shinichi at the Beika building he had designed, Moriya wished them a memorable and wonderful date. The next day, news about a theft of explosives at the Tokyo Explosives Company was broadcast. Shortly after, the Kurokawa mansion was destroyed by an organized bombing attack. Shinichi also received a call from a stranger. The man claimed to be the one who stole the explosives from the Tokyo company. Moreover, the stranger threatened Shinichi to read out his phone number before demanding him to come to the park to save his friends. Immediately, Conan used his skate scooter to move to the nearby park. As soon as he arrived, the detective boys used a model plane that a stranger had handed to them, saying, "This is a real bombing plane." However, due to the mischievousness of the kids, they thought it was just a joke. When Conan confirmed it was a real bombing plane, the group panicked, causing the remote control to fall and break the antenna. The plane then lost control and sped towards everyone. Before it could explode, Conan used his special shoes to kick the remote control, causing the plane to explode while still in the sky. After dealing with everything, the culprit called Shinichi's number again, but Conan forgot to disguise his voice, allowing the culprit to realize he was talking to a kid. Additionally, Conan deduced that the culprit was observing from afar since he could grasp every action of the detective boys. Before the next bomb exploded, the culprit gave Conan a clue and disappeared under the shadow of a building. The clue said, "Under a tree root, but not underground." Immediately, Conan searched all the tree roots in the area but couldn't find anything. While observing from above, Conan noticed an old lady receiving a box containing a cat. At that moment, he realized the bomb was placed inside the cat carrier box. However, by the time he realized it, the old lady had already left in a taxi. He quickly chased after her and accidentally dropped his skateboard onto the ground. While chasing, the skateboard unfortunately stopped working due to the previous impact. Knowing there wasn't much time left, Conan jumped onto a kid's bicycle nearby and sped off, much to the older kid's surprise. With less than a minute remaining, fortunately, Conan found the old lady. He took the box from her car and noticed the timer had stopped at 16 seconds. He tried his best to get it away from everyone. As the time ticked down to 1 second, Conan quickly jumped off the bicycle and passing out from the explosion's shockwave. When Conan regained consciousness in the hospital, Inspector Meguri and the others came to gather important information from the kid and learned that there was currently a significant threat of a series of bombing attacks. After recounting everything, Conan's only request was for Uncle Mori to compensate for the damaged bicycle. Uncle Mori scolded Conan but was not concerned about the cost of the bicycle. He was only worried about his nephew's health. By summarizing all his deductions, the police also suspected that the culprit might have a grudge against Kudo Shinichi, and they began investigating the suspects from a case a year ago. Moreover, the detective boys had drawn a rough sketch of the culprit and mentioned a faint scent when he approached. As soon as the kids returned home, the culprit called Conan again to announce his next bombing plan. He placed 5 bombs on major train lines, and if the train's speed dropped below 60 km/h, the bombs would immediately explode. Additionally, at sunset, the bombs would also explode. Conan contemplated the culprit's motive but was helpless. Immediately, the police scrambled to deal with the situation. The control center received the information and ordered all trains to maintain a speed of 60 km/h, causing confusion and suspicion among the public about the actions of the Japanese police. Despite checking every part of the trains, the security personnel could not find any bombs or suspicious objects. As a result, the passengers on the trains were gradually becoming impatient and started causing chaos in the carriages. Some even demanded to jump off the train after hearing about the bombs. Conan remained in the hospital, contemplating the construction of the bombs. He then realized the key to this case and contacted the police to provide a clue. The key was that the bombs would explode if they did not receive light for 13 seconds. And when the train passed through an area with light, if its speed was over 60 km/h, it would quickly pass before the time ran out. However, if the train traveled slower than 60 km/h, the bomb would be shielded from sunlight for more than 13 seconds, triggering the explosion. Without a doubt, all the bombs were placed on the rail tracks. Immediately, the police ordered trains not on the main line to evacuate from the tracks. From there, the police began searching for the 5 bombs placed on the rail line. After a period of searching, the last bomb was found at the bridge designed by architect Moriya. From there, Conan began to suspect a mysterious possibility and coincidence in Moriya's works. On the other side, Ran had arrived at the Baker building to meet her close friend. However, since she was a bit early, Ran decided to wander around the building to kill time. At this moment, Conan and the investigation team went to architect Moriya's mansion to further investigate the case. Additionally, they stopped by the spot where the bomb that had injured Conan exploded. Upon arriving at the architect's house, Conan discovered a new suspicion about the scent Ayumi had described. Shortly after, Conan began investigating the works Moriya had built when he was 30 years old. Finally, he realized something and began planning to expose the bomber. While the police were still uncertain about the culprit, Conan called Inspector Meguri's phone and began deducing. However, before he could do anything, Uncle Mori claimed that Officer Shiratori was the culprit due to his admiration for architect Moriya's father. Moreover, whenever the bomber called, Officer Shiratori was not present. However, Uncle's reasoning was merely farcical, as immediately after, Conan asserted that the culprit was not Officer Shiratori, but the creator of the recently bombed structure, none other than the famous architect Teiji Moriya himself. The reason he planted the bombs was simply due to his obsessive personality, always fixated on beauty and symmetry. Looking back at his early, imperfect works, he could not stand them and began planning to blow everything up to eliminate what he considered flawed. A year ago, Shinichi had solved a case that landed the mayor in jail, causing Moriya's plan to build a new city to be cancelled. Since then, he harbored a deep hatred for Kudo Shinichi and began investigating everyone close to him, including the detective boys, who also became targets of his twisted scheme. The reason the bombs stopped for a period was that there were distinctive lights Moriya had planned to incorporate into his new project design. Not wanting them damaged by the blast, he made the timers stop for a while to allow Conan carried them away from his supposedly perfect structures. Despite the clear evidence, Moriya adamantly denied everything. However, when Officer Shiratori brought out a disguise from behind the room, he panicked, saying, "Impossible, I kept it in the safe." That statement itself was evidence to incriminate him. In fact, the disguise was just a mock prop Conan had made to expose the culprit. Immediately after, instead of surrendering, Moriya grabbed a remote control and threatened to blow up the mansion if anyone approached. However, since Conan had already removed the batteries from the remote, Moriya was quickly arrested by 2 officers. But the ordeal was not over yet. Fueled by his hatred, Moriya had placed the remaining bombs at the Beika building, where Ran was waiting for Shinichi. Immediately, one bomb was automatically triggered and exploded, blocking everyone's path. Although Conan rushed to the scene, it seemed too late as all exits were sealed. Finally, Conan had to contact Ran through the building's receptionist phone. Fortunately, after the big explosions, Ran and everyone else inside were safe. Unfortunately, the largest bomb had been planted inside the room by Moriya, and the only way to defuse it was from the inside. Using the blueprints obtained from Moriya, Shinichi guided Ran step by step on how to defuse the bomb. She grabbed the final wire and cut it, but to her surprise, the bomb's countdown continued. Anticipating Shinichi's actions, Moriya had added 2 new wires as a final test of the couple's love. Now, the only choice was to cut one wire randomly, with a 50% chance of success. Conan suggested, "Cut the color you like." As everything neared its conclusion, Ran wished Shinichi a happy birthday, unsure if she would survive tomorrow either. Finally, the two were separated by the explosion's shockwave. Now, all life rested in Ran's hands and her choice, green or red. Previously, Ran had asked Shinichi his favorite color, and after hearing it was red, she had bought him a red sweater as a birthday gift. Because on that day, red was also the lucky color for both of them. But it was precisely for this reason that Moriya had exploited it in his scheme to potentially eliminate them both. Conan had just realized this and tried to stop Ran, but the rubble blocked their signals. He screamed in desperation. When it seemed all was lost, surprisingly, Ran's choice was not to cut the red wire, because she did not want the red string of their love to be severed once again. And with that, the bomb was safely defused, and everyone could safely exit the tower. Everything ended. Moriya was taken into custody, while Uncle Mori cried tears of relief. And that image marked the conclusion of this movie. In the end, Shinichi had once again disappeared, leaving Ran alone with her sorrow and yearning. But truly their love was not in vain, for Conan had always been silently by Ran's side whenever she needed